All right. Sounds good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. This is the official podcast of the Vibrant Life community, and I'm Sarah Nolan, an energy management and burnout prevention consultant, and I'm here with Jeff Moore, and he is the legendary king of messaging and also a special connector. And in my opinion, he is not my opinion, it's just the truth that he is a highly enlightened human. And one of his greatest superpowers is his empathy. And he uses his empathy to really put himself in other people's shoes and connect deeply and help his clients to help with their clients deeply as well, creating this really awesome ripple effect of contribution. So thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on with us today.
Thanks. It's a lot of fun to be here.
Yeah. So we are doing a special series on the podcast called A Hero's Journey, Stories of Overcoming. And I've got the most amazing people joining me in the podcast, including Jeff today, sharing their stories of overcoming and hopefully helping you guys to relate to what they're speaking of and get some really good takeaways that can help you on your path as well. So Jeff, can you introduce yourself and talk about, how you got here and specifically what you'd like to talk about for the series?
That's great. Well, first, I'm a husband and father of 4 great kids that are all adult children, and just very proud of them. And just madly in love with my wife. And I am, my day job is I sell dead fish for a living. I'm a director of seafood and business development for a large protein trading company that has offices around the country. And just very fortunate that I've got such a great environment there. Then that kind of really lends to the story that I'm going to tell today. But I also am the founder of a entrepreneurial and lifestyle mastermind group called Thursday Night Boardroom. And that's something that has gone, it's actually this month, will be on its 10th year.
Oh my gosh.
That we started awesome. With 4 guys in a room watching Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes in the Ultimate Business Mastery Summit, which was the original business mastery that Tony Robbins did back in the day. I'm just turning my phone on vibrate there. Sorry about that. So that started with 4 people and then kind of grew and then kind of got to know people and was on some podcasts. And now we're just about at 800 people from 26 countries in that group. And
wow.
It's a great group. It's a kind of a who's who. Some people call it AA for entrepreneurs. And it's been great. Something that's special is we don't do a lot of online meeting and collaboration. I mean, we do in our Facebook group, but the actual meetings are in person and they're not recorded. And it's a really special session where you feel safe. And I believe that safety has to precede vulnerability, and vulnerability is what you really need to achieve, to have a breakthrough. And so that's been something special that we've done for 10 years, and it's a real labor of love. And then I'm also the founder of the group called The Network. And that, with my partner, Nick Peterson, we put together and started that in June of last year of 2018. And that's been fantastic. Just a lot of high-end, world-class service providers such as yourself, and just a group that we meet 4 times a year, but we interact constantly. It's probably one of the most high-touch groups of its kind out there, where every one of our members has access to us every single day, and they can actually fly in and spend time on what we call office days, where we really truly break down the business and go deep and start to look at some of the principles and strategies, as well as some tactics that help drive new, increased, and are more profitable consumption of our product, service, or message. And so that's just been a fantastic deal. So I'm in that kind of busy.
I would agree with that. What
Oh,
Jeff
good.
just said. I have done one office day so far. I'm planning on doing many others. And one of my favorite things about what you guys do is like the availability, like what you just said. Sometimes just having somebody of your caliber where I can just like text and I can be like,
Yep.
this is what's happening. And, it doesn't need to be this big thing.
Yep.
Or, working on the stuff that really matters.
Right.
So,
And I think that's kind of that you talked about the empathy thing earlier.
yeah.
I'll see stuff and it'll remind me of one of our members, and I'll pick up the phone or text and, reach out and just say, hey, I just saw something and I thought of you. And I know you and I have had those conversations.
Yeah.
And so we're always thinking of people when we talk to people in our regular life, or people that might be, kind of facing some challenges. I know that you have done, I've brought people to you and introduced you to quite a few people that are great relationships that you have right now. And that's just something that we do. And I've talked to people, and talking about the network, I've talked to people that have, high-end mastermind groups and have had them for years. And they asked me to kind of explain the structure of what we do. And they said, do your members know that there's not that kind of high touch anywhere else? Of the stuff that you're doing and the caliber that you're doing, that's the highest touch and highest service component we've ever heard of,
Right.
and but it limits us, it's we're not looking to sign up 100 people. We'd be, in the ground if we did that. We have a sweet spot, and we're always within maybe, 4 or 5 people, or maybe sometimes as many as 10 people. But right now we're about 4 or 5 people away from, just that sweet spot. But it's something that really, again, is something that we really just love doing. It just drives our energy big time. And so that's what I do for a living. And I'll tell you that the kind of the breakthrough, the thing that I'm overcoming right now, I've had a family business for 20 years, almost 20 years. And in family business, whoever's listening that's had a family business knows that the thought of a family business is pretty cool, but the challenges are also very real, emotionally, personally, and it's you start, you go to work and this is your family, and you leave work and that's still your family. And the challenges that you face and the conflict and things like that, it's hard to not have those things permeate your entire life. And so lived in that kind of an interesting dynamic with the family business. And over the course of the last few years, the family business was, we had change of ownership. So one of our main investors came in and reinvested money, and I stayed on as president. And then I knew that investor was really not looking to own the company long term. So I found another company to buy it from him. And I thought, hey, I really get along with this one guy at this company who's one of the top guys in the company. We put the deal together, and within 6 weeks, and this is back in 2018, within 6 weeks of taking on this company buying us, I knew that I wasn't staying. But I also had an obligation to make sure the deal was done for the previous owner, which was our main investor. And so I stuck in there, even though this company there was no connection, and I was in a company that I just felt like anything I was doing was never the thing they wanted me to do. And it was just,
your family business.
This is the family business that's now been sold. And so it's now owned by another company out of Miami. So I was really it just was stealing my spirit. And you and I actually had some sessions together back in 2018 that you kind of helped me through some of this as well. And it was just, there was, as much as I try and work on myself spiritually, I was in an environment that was something that it wasn't sustainable. and it every single day was kind of worse than the last day. And I would work very hard saying, hey, I'm 100% responsible for everything that's going on in my life. And so I would approach it that way, that I'm responsible for my own happiness here. And I kept rolling along with this, had great things going on at the network, but had this day job that I felt obligated to be in. And by summertime, I was just like, they took over at the beginning of April. And by summer, I was done. I was just absolutely, I felt like a broken person. And, my other vocations were things that gave me life. But this thing every single day was just an anxiety attack waiting to happen.
You know what's interesting about what you're talking about so far, Jeff, is I feel like there's so many people who say, without looking into the actual situation, they'll look at what you're talking about and say, oh, well, it is what you make of it. And you can be happy in any situation. And, you got to just think positive and push through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I learned a very big lesson here, and I'm going to share it in a second, but it just was so bad that I finally, I knew that I wasn't going to stay like after 6 weeks, but I knew I had this obligation. So I'm starting to set up things that are going to happen after, and talking to somebody where I actually, with the company I'm with now, but still had to live this. And there was always this thing in the back of my mind that, hey, this new opportunity can go away in a second. And so I need to play this game and, continue. It was an awful way of being. I just felt really run down. If I didn't have relationships with people like you, people like Nick and other people in the network and Thursday Night Boardroom, and really the assistance of my wife, and kids, I don't think I would have lived through it physically. I think that I ended up having some heart trouble because of it, a little cardiomyopathy, and just everything was just, it was really easy for me to get sick. It was terrible. But I was hanging in there for this sense of obligation and this thing, hey, I'll make what, I can make this, I can turn this around for myself and just, be happy in what I'm doing. But I just didn't trust these guys. And it didn't happen until, I didn't have this kind of breakthrough and this understanding until it all came together at the very end. I was getting ready to leave the company, and they actually had one of those fly-in meetings with my boss. Oh, meet me at the hotel so we can talk about, our business. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And in that meeting, they're talking about how they're going to change my role, and they're going to downsize what my responsibilities are, compensation, blah, 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 blah. It's going to change. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to think about this. Well, all the while I'm texting my quote unquote new employer saying I'll be ready to come to work, in 2 weeks. And they were like, awesome. Everything was great. But I went through and I had some other conversations. I actually made these guys fire me. I wanted to quit. I wanted to be the guy that was like, screw you, I quit.
Yeah.
And really have that. And a friend of mine, like an hour before I was going into that meeting, goes, you're not quitting. And he told me, like, hey, legally, they can't fire you without giving you a severance, or it's wrongful termination, blah, 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 blah. They got to give you a severance. And I was like, wow, great advice. So I'm real fortunate that I've got this support system around me. And it was just always this, I started to look and really realize and continue to realize how grateful I am for this support system. And after I made him fire me and I walked out, it was like the greatest feeling, because I just felt that I was going to be, that it was just this freedom, this there was almost like that warmth that goes through your body, and it just was that feeling. And I started to really reflect, because I had a little bit of time off that I could do. I still wanted to make sure my customers were, understood what was going on, and wanted to take care of them, because that's kind of always my thing, right? I am you, and I want to make sure that I know that they're covered, and they know that I'm still alive, and I'm not leaving the industry and all that kind of stuff. But I started to think about and reflect on that level of misery, the stuff that I actually tolerated.
Yeah.
And had I given myself the permission to be truly happy, that 100% responsibility for your own happiness is 100% responsibility to leave those things that don't make you happy.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I've had any regret that I've ever had in my life has been a regret in waiting. If there's a friend that's sick and all of a sudden you don't reach out to him and then he has a turn for the worse and you really can't go and tell him what you feel about him and how much you love him because you waited.
Right.
I had this, everything's turned out well for me. And I'll tell you how it's changed and how life has changed and what I'm still dealing with in this kind of overcoming. But I had every opportunity to leave whenever I wanted to, but I built this kind of obligation and all these
Yeah.
different stories up. And, when I left all those things were still there.
Where did that come from? Where did that obligation come from in the stories, do you think?
I just think forever, it's just innate for me. If somebody's invested in me, so that it was our main investor. And so I wanted to make sure that that deal, as any transaction completes, and there was like a 1-year total payout situation that was going on. And so he sold the company and there was like a year to go until the end of 2018 that, all the inventory would be sold, all these different things would be, accounted for, and he would have been paid in full, gotten his full investment back, everything would have been fine. And so that's what I was really sticking around for. It had nothing to do with me. It had to do with that obligation, which I felt and still do feel like those types of obligations are righteous,
Right.
but it was killing me. And it turned out that the company I left, I ended up getting my old business back, and these guys went out of business within 5 months of me leaving.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that part.
And the investor got screwed out of money. It was just,
Mhm.
it was an awful thing always. And it was like, it was making it my obligation to almost change the tide, right? That this deal wasn't going to be a good deal. And it wasn't my responsibility to make this deal a good deal,
Yeah.
but I did make it and so I started to tolerate and build in my own mind, this kind of almost like the dog that's beaten. And so anytime they see a newspaper, they kind of wince. There were certain situations that if the situations weren't about a success and a big win, I was in that dog being beaten mode. Just because it was always, oh, well, what did you do now? I mean, I could sell $30 million this year, but if one deal didn't go through, they'd go, oh, I guess we need to make some changes. It was like
at the old place.
Yeah. And so you're just like, oh my God. So I ended up leaving, going to work for this guy. And really, a lot of people say, oh, your family is your most important thing. The most important thing in the world is your family and your own happiness. And people say that, but the behavior is very different,
Right.
when you're working for people. And I went to work for this new company, and I've known this guy for 30 years, and he's a super competitive guy and, big time business guy. And I came in the first day and he goes, hey, we got a whole week scheduled, and blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of intense but we're going to get some stuff done. And, really glad you're here. And it's like kind of get to work type thing. He goes, but before you do, he goes, I need you to go through this, and hands me a folder that had envelopes in it. And I go, oh, like, what is this? Like insurance and HR stuff or whatever. And he left the office, my new office. And I opened up these envelopes, and they were letters from my wife and my 4 children telling me how proud they are of me.
Wow.
And, how they're so happy that I've made a change and all this type of stuff. It was so powerful and so just like, wow, I'm in a totally different world, a totally different environment. But because I had a habitual behavior, like everything's got to be great or I'm going to get, it's bad. I would start walking into my quote unquote boss's office with bad news.
Right.
And he would just be like, okay. Or I'd like, oh, these people are being really, they're being super difficult and unreasonable. He's like, we don't need their business. Go do something else. Don't worry about it.
Amazing.
And I was like, wow, but I'd still go into his office with that attitude because it's habitual, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so one day he goes, you know what? Don't even say anything. And I go, okay. He goes, see that look on your face? And he's kind of circling with his finger. See that look on your face? And I go, yeah. He goes, that look pisses me off. And I go, why? He goes, is there anything that I've ever done to you or said to you that would make you feel like feeling that way is something you should feel? And I go, no. He goes, that's the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like that look is not now. You're here. You're here forever. He goes, unless you kill somebody or do something like steal from us or something like that, you're here. You and I are going to do this thing together for the next 10 or 15 years. And he goes, so when you come in looking like that, you're telling me you don't trust me.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa. And it just, all of a sudden, it was like, I'm acting a way that is not representative of my environment today.
Right, right.
And so I carried all of that crap with me. And it was like when I've done a session with you and we release things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we use that energy and we really get into that source of our energy. It was one of those things where all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait a minute. I can teach this to somebody, but now it's like doctor, heal thyself,
Mm-hmm.
physician, heal thyself. And it was like, okay, when there's crappy news or seemingly crappy news, the first thing you're going to do is not run the list of what does, oh my gosh, this could mean this and this and this and this.
Right.
It was like, stop and breathe. And it was like, all of a sudden it became the thing for me was any kind of stressor was like, instead of reacting, the first thing you do is take some deep cleansing breaths
Mm-hmm.
and concentrate on your breathing. And it's almost like a mini meditation.
Yeah. That
you created some things where like you're able to release that stress on demand, anxiety on demand, and you and I have worked through that in messaging. And it was just like, that's the thing. And I started to really, the breakthrough was that all of this world-class teaching, these world-class experiences that I have, this world-class advice, I'm actually going to honor it by using it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
If it sounds right to me, then I am going to do what's right. And it's doing right is leadership. Trying to be right is a whole other deal. You're defensive, you're fighting. It just never makes any sense. And that's the sign of a follower or somebody that's in the crowd or a naysayer or just a critic or whatever. And I just felt like, hey, as a leader, I want to be able to show by example that every decision in our lives is not life or death.
Right.
And that this thing of ours, how long we live, is 100% our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that stress may be, it's a fact of life. You're going to feel stress. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel depressed. But how you allow that to permeate and sustain itself is 100% up to you.
Yeah. And you had mentioned in the beginning, the first part of your story, how the stress of you being in that first work environment was literally tearing away at your body.
Oh, big time. Big time. And it just, because there's so much noise and so much, it really is just noise. It's like being in a manufacturing facility where there's metal being sawed and welded, and there's just this noise, and you're just, that you can hardly feel like you can't have a conversation with yourself. And I've experienced these things over in the past. And I remember that And it was advice that I found again in me. And it was like, I was trying to solve all these problems and trying to have this, like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And there was just these two words that came, and it was, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
Jamie Smart talks about the pond is clouded with mud, and there's nothing you can do to make that mud settle except let it settle,
Mm-hmm.
because clarity is water's natural state, and our mind's natural state is clarity as well. And so when we're quiet and we let the mud settle, and that breathing technique was what really helped me. Nobody knows I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go, okay, I've got to, you know, contemplate my navel here for a second, or I've got to sit in a certain way or whatever. It's just the way I decide to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a more peaceful, what is a more, you know, it's a natural thing that we do, and nobody in the room knows that I'm breathing purposefully except me, and why I'm doing it. And it was just really helped me regain a relationship with myself. And I ended up not reacting to things, but really kind of breathing and then responding if it even required a response. And I've never felt as calm as I have felt in the last year now. And
I can see it in your eyes right now.
Oh, good.
I see this like level of calm that you can tell the difference.
Yeah. And thank you for that. But every day it's like, the more I stop trying to push the peanut up the hill with my nose, right? The more I'm in a kind of a state of flow, the more I realize that this is the state that things really truly happen. It doesn't require all of this excess energy and fervor. It's like, do what you do and do it without a lot of friction.
Right.
We can try and pedal our bike too fast, or we can do all these types of things, but if we're going beyond what the gears can handle, the output doesn't get any better.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
working harder.
Just working hard. And so people talk about ROI all the time, return on investment. And I talk about this a lot too, but now it's like physician heal thyself. Is the precursor to ROI is ROE. Mm. And it's return on energy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I spend this time, and I know Nick talks about it, about the bimodal strategy and where are we spending our time, and not being caught in a thing that's in the middle of the two essentials in our life, that is neither serving either side very well and just expending a lot of energy. And I just think that that's been it. I mean, it's be quiet and really look at that return on energy that will result in a better return on investment. And you know, we're going into a budget year, or a new budget year. We went from $0 to $18 million within, it was September, October, November, December. In 6 months, we went from $0 sales to $18 million annualized.
Are you serious?
We went from 5 million to 18 million in 10 days.
How did that happen?
Because the old company went out of business, and all my customers called me up and said, holy crap, Jeff, what do we do now?
Yeah.
I'm like, I got you. I work for a company that's the first thing of the company. The first rule of the business is take care of the customer.
Right.
We'll figure everything out later. Just you take care of the customer now. And we did. And it's just been an amazing year. So I spent 2019, you know, receiving all these opportunities. And now my favorite thing is to be an evangelist, a storyteller, to go out and really, you know, kind of rile up the troops. And so now I'm so excited going into 2020, because what I love to do is what they want me to do.
Yeah.
In the budget meeting, it's like, you know, you can sit there and think about budget meetings. So what are you going to do with sales next year? What are you going to do this? What are you going to do that? We had 2 meetings before we even talked about a number. And the last one was, what do you love doing? Was the first question. What do you love doing and why? It's like, wow. The first
Such
question
a better
in the
question.
first meeting was, the first question in the first meeting was, are you happy? Are you as happy as you thought you'd be coming here or more? I mean, that's literally how the environment is that I'm in now. And so all that does is help me want to share that feeling with everybody else.
And I feel the trickle down from that in the network.
Yes.
I think you asked me that same question.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's, and to me, it's like, I'm asking those questions already, but has anybody ever asked that of me?
Right. Yes.
And it's just, it's super powerful. And the meetings get more and more candid. And the president of our company will just say, I just want you to, in talking about the meeting yesterday, I just want you to realize, and I want you to take it, that candor in no other way except absolute respect. That I feel that I can be that candid with you and you can be that candid with me. And it's just like, where the hell have I been? What have I been doing all my life? And it's just, that's just such a special thing. But you know what? Everybody has an opportunity to make that happen for themselves. And right now, if somebody's in a job that they don't like and they say, there's no other opportunities out there, they're not looking hard. You know what's hard right now? Hiring good people, finding good people. That's the biggest challenge out there. There's just not enough of that out there with this low unemployment. Everybody that's sitting in a career that they dislike, know now that you have an opportunity to be somewhere that you want to be. And there's opportunity out there. And if you allow it to, it'll actually reveal itself to you. You won't have to look for it.
Yes. And one of my biggest takeaways from your story, hearing this today all put together, is you made space for this new job. You made space for this opportunity by saying no, by listening to your intuition and saying, this isn't something that I want to make good. This is something that I want to release from my life. And did you even know that this other opportunity was out there around that time?
It revealed itself after about 6 weeks with this new company.
Okay.
With the old company, I should say, where they had approved all my expenses, and it was a lot of expenses because we were in conferences and stuff like that. And the owner of the company said, no, I'm not paying him. I'm not reimbursing him. I'm like, you already approved him. Well, call the customers and ask for your money back. I'm like, I won't be doing that.
Yeah.
And it was that day that the president, my boss now, saw me at an event, and he walked over to me and he goes, something's not right. He goes, usually you are shot out of a cannon. You're out, talking to everybody, having a great time. He goes, what's going on? I told him. He goes, it's not as bad as you think. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you can always leave. And I go, okay. And he kind of walks away, and he comes back to me after maybe a couple more cocktails. He goes, you know what I meant when I meant you can always leave? And I said, well, no, that I can always leave. I get it. He goes, no, I'm not telling you for anybody else, but come to work with me. And I was like, whoa. And so that's when we started talking. So I knew that was then, and I knew that I'd be making a change. I didn't know it was going to be as soon as it was. And I remember going to the Beanbag Mastermind. Nick and I went to the Beanbag Mastermind with Steve Sims and Greg Reed. And they had me get up on a hot seat and express what was going on. And everybody's like, he goes, oh, we don't need to ask questions. You just need to get out of there. And then Nick goes, well, he goes, let me kind of interject. Jeff, tell him what you make. And I told him, he goes, how many people in here, would just leave that? And nobody raised their hand.
Right.
And so he goes, it's not as easy as just get the hell out of there. And Greg said, no, it actually is. Because if he's making that kind of money there, I'm sure there's 3 or 4 places that would pay him even more. Yeah. And he was right. So it was a great, and I can't imagine going anywhere else, being anywhere else. If I'm leaving that company, it means I've left the industry. So
Yeah, amazing. And what I have seen from my clients and people I know making those kind of difficult but life-changing decisions is that sends a message to the universe saying, this is what I'm all about. This is what I'm going for. This is what I deserve. And this is what I expect.
yep.
And so have you found that you've had other types of opportunities, new opportunities coming to you?
It's amazing, Sarah. I'll be in a conversation. We're actually one of your fellow members of the network. There's a challenge. They're about hiring somebody, and we're still working on it. But within hours of this kind of exchange on Facebook, the person came in a conversation, came up to me and was expressing his desire to make a change. And it's like, I don't want to use the word perfect or ideal,
Yeah.
but it's pretty damn close to those things. And so I'm like, oh my God, like if I'm spending all this energy on who do I find, and I'm searching and searching and searching, honestly, we will find our best life or ideal scenario when we stop spending so much time searching.
Yes.
Because the universe or the divine or whatever has actually a better idea than we have.
Yes.
And it's like, wow. And
Yeah.
so by being quiet, by being self-aware, by allowing yourself that time to have those internal, peaceful conversations, it really does. It really will reveal itself to you way faster than if you were looking.
Beautiful. I feel like that is the perfect place to send off.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
It's been my pleasure.
If
Thank
you're
you for listening.
Oh, yes. If you're listening to this, whoever's listening, watching, please drop a comment and let us know one of your takeaways. I've got many, but I'm sure you've got many too, but just let us know one of your takeaways from our session today. And Jeff, you had mentioned the Thursday Night Boardroom. This is something, I'm in the Thursday Night Boardroom, such a high caliber people in that group. And if anybody wants to inquire about it, what should they do?
You can go to ThursdayNightBoardroom.com.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good. We're just go to ThursdayNightBoardroom.com. We were talking about those vanity URLs at the last retreat, and it's it's funny. But ThursdayNightBoardroom.com. You'll just have a quick question, some questions you got to answer about how you heard about it, and who you are, and then what it'll be. There'll be a little sequence that we're looking at who you are and what you do, and then once you're accepted, you're invited into the Facebook group that you'll go in, and then we interact in the Facebook group, and then, like I said, once a month we have these sessions, and we've had people fly in from London and race from the airport to come in and share, and people that have come in from South Dakota and from across.
I'll be there from Colorado.
There you go.
The next couple of months. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
And so it's just people, and it's amazing. New faces show up. I'm like, how did you hear about this? And it's like, I heard about it from this person. They said, you got to go. And I'm like, awesome. And we go around the room. We literally go around the room. Like we'll do a little bit of perspective, a little bit of education, but the real power comes in when we do solve or share. And so if somebody has a selfish ask, when there's a selfish ask, something to ask of the group, we go through and it's call it the opportunity chair instead of the hot seat. Or if they just want to share a perspective, a unique perspective and a breakthrough that they had, or a challenge that they were facing and how they overcome. So it really becomes the truest sense of mastermind. It's not a mini seminar. It really is. Just like the network, every member is the star of the show. Every member is the spoke, is the hub of the wheel, and everybody else is there to serve. And so that's really what Thursday Night Boardroom and how we kind of fashioned the network, being with a hell of a lot more high touch in the network.
Yeah, and I know some of the people in the boardroom, and I am just so excited to be able to go myself. And so whoever takes Jeff up on the Thursday Night Boardroom or the network or anything else, I also have some gifts for you. So mention the podcast when you connect with Jeff, and
Awesome.
we will collaborate together to get you super amazing gifts that I have on my end as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's great.
All right. So thank you so much, Jeff. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
All right.
All right. Thanks.